The Mazda MX-5 is a real throwback to the sporty two-seater sports cars of the 1970s. Cars like the Triumph Spitfire, Lotus Elan and MGB. Cars that didn't need big, powerful engines. Instead, they were more geared around putting a smile on the driver's face. And it's that philosophy of building a car around the driver that's made the MX-5 such a huge success.
The ingredients are simple. Small dimensions, rear-wheel drive and an affordable price tag, all wrapped up in a package that's stylish on the outside and clutter-free on the inside. In fact, it's a recipe that's proved so popular that over 1 million have been sold globally since it first went on display at the Chicago Auto Show in 1989. Over time though, many more modern rivals like the MGF and Toyota MR2 have faded away, leaving the MX-5 in a category all on its own.
There are two 4-cylinder petrol engines to choose from, a 1.5 or 2 litre, and as you'd expect, they're very driver orientated. The manner in which you drive though will really dictate which one you go for. The 131 brake horsepower 1.5 litre petrol is what you call spirited rather than outright fast. It'll do the 0 to 60 dash in under 8.5 seconds and keep going to a top speed of 125 miles per hour. But to get the most out of it, you really have to rev the engine hard and drive it much more on the limit. The 160 brake horsepower 2 litre though is a much better all-rounder. As you'd expect, it's quicker to 60 by a second and has a faster top speed of 133 miles per hour. As well as its dinky dimensions, the MX-5 is also extremely light. It weighs just 1,260 kilograms, which not only helps with agile handling, it also means it's pretty economical too. The steering is light and precise and gives the driver real confidence when placing the car exactly where you want to on the road. The ride is comfortable at cruising speed while still maintaining to remain planted at high speed. One of the big drawbacks of a cloth roof though is that refinement can be compromised at higher speed like on motorways, but that's not the case with the MX-5. You sit quite low down behind the wheel and the pedals and the steering wheel are all lined up perfectly and the gear stick is placed exactly where your hand would naturally rest. It's just a shame that the steering wheel only adjusts for height and it doesn't adjust for reach.
The dash layout is simplicity itself, a hallmark of the MX-5, with controls that are within easy reach and straightforward to use. And that applies to the folding roof too.
Unlike its predecessor, which was available with a fully electric hardtop or a manual canvas roof, this is only available with the latter. Now, opening and closing is a relatively simple proposition, and you do have to contort your body in some unusual shapes, but closing it is relatively straightforward.
The high window line and rather cosy cabin does make you feel quite hemmed in though, so there isn't much space to get comfy, and there isn't much in terms of storage. And it's the same when it comes to the boot. Many rivals are much bigger and there's really only enough space for a couple of weekend bags.
This MX-5 is equipped with Mazda's MZB Connect 7-inch infotainment system. It's controlled by a touchscreen or this rotary dial, which is a bit like BMW's iDrive system. The controls are fairly intuitive, the buttons are nicely displayed and it's pretty quick to respond, and doing simple jobs like pairing your mobile phone is fairly straightforward. Simply hit the communication button, would you like to connect a phone, hit connect, make sure your phone is paired up and ready to go. And there you go, relatively straightforward. Then if you've got satellite navigation as an optional extra, you just hit the nav button on the home screen, hit the new destination, find address, and then type in the town and street name. Now again, you can do this using the rotary dial or the touchscreen system. What's also pretty neat are these shortcut buttons around the rotary dial. It means that while you're on the move, you can simply choose your music, your navigation or your favourites at a touch of a button rather than having to use the screen. The Mazda MX-5 is an attractive proposition thanks largely to its low-level entry price. The only trouble is though, you don't get a lot of equipment for your money. You have to pay extra for things like satellite navigation.
There's plenty of safety kit though, with all models getting stability control and 4 airbags, as well as Isofix child seat mounts. Because the MX-5 is so light, it's pretty cheap to run. The 1.5 litre will return an impressive 48 miles per gallon, if driven carefully of course. The Mazda MX-5 is an improvement on its predecessor, thanks largely to its more dramatic looks, improved interior and more powerful engine lineup. You'll love the way it drives and be impressed by how little it'll cost to run. The only downside is limited cabin space. For more information, search for the Mazda MX-5 on whatcar.com, and to stay up to date with all our latest video road tests, click subscribe.